Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2. Today's video is a super mini mail call, so let's get right to it. I have all stuff that I brought back from VCF in Chicago. I have it all in this bag right here. Yeah, I had to expand my suitcase a little bit because people were giving me some stuff. I actually had to turn down a bunch of things that were too big to bring home. So apologies to anyone who offered me stuff, and well, thank you for the offer. But yeah, the suitcase wasn't going to accommodate that. I just had a small carry-on. I was able to expand it to check it for this stuff, but the big things like computers and stuff, unfortunately, yeah, not possible. Anyhow, first item we have here actually comes from VCF in Atlanta. It's a carryover item. I had shown stuff I had brought home, I think, on a previous mail call episode, but this one here I didn't. So let me switch the camera. And yeah, so what we're looking at here is a printout. Let's try to get this all in frame. Adrian's Digital Basement. It's from a line printer. I love the green bar. I had to think for a second what that was called. Up at the top here it says Thornwood High School 7/28/2023. And if we flip this over, Adrian's Digital Basement at VCF Southeast 2023. So hi to all my viewers I got to meet at VCF in Atlanta. That was a really fun trip. This was printed out by one of the exhibitors, and I'm really sorry I forgot your name, and I always try to write it down on things that I get from them, and I completely forgot to do that. The exhibit had a whole bunch of IBM type computers, like really big ones. I think this was literally a computer that was used in a high school, not obviously in 2023 like the date on here, but for managing their scheduling and all that kind of stuff. In fact, when I think back to my high school days, I don't know what our school used for that stuff, but I can tell you that my printouts for my class schedules and stuff and report cards and things all was printed on a dot matrix printer. So I'm assuming it was something similar to this, some kind of IBM mini computer kind of thing. And, you know, I really don't know much about that stuff. So I won't try to guess even because I'm sure I'll get it wrong. But anyways, thanks very much for giving that to me. And I actually have another printout in here that came from VCF Midwest in Chicago. And here it is. So Patrick, aka Vax11, I think his handle is, he set up a selfie station. That was so cool. And here's one here. I think that's Connor, and I can't remember who this is here. Let me zoom in on this picture here. So it was a selfie station. You walked up and had like a video camera and an old like ThinkPad computer, if I recall. And you essentially stood in front of the camera and pushed a button on like a NES type controller. It would take a picture, and then a little printer they would use in like a kitchen for printing receipts, you know, to cook your meal, would print out a little claim ticket, which I didn't save, unfortunately. And you had to go to like a whole different side of the convention over to where there was an old televideo terminal and a big band printer. You had to go to this terminal and essentially dial a phone number. And yes, at VCF Midwest every year, there's an entire phone system set up for the event, like old analog, plain old telephone service, POTS lines that kind of go all over the place. You'll hear like phones ringing and you can kind of call each other, different desks and stuff. The selfie station had a modem on it, and you basically had to go to this terminal, a televideo terminal, dial into the ThinkPad, I think that was over on the selfie station, and then you would log in. There was like a name and password, and then you had to use your claim ticket that was printed out on that little piece of paper. And then it would print out your selfie with VCF Midwest 18, as you can see. Oops, I got to zoom out a little bit. VCF Midwest 18, this selfie picture. It says here, selfie station brought to you by Chicago Classic Computers, 501c, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so that was it. But yeah, it was all set up by my friend Patrick, and it was super fun. So there were two here. There's one with just me and the dragon here, wearing my Adrian's Digital Basement shirt. And then there was another one here, yeah, that had all three of us in here. So absolute blast. The most unique selfie station I have ever seen. Every other selfie station is usually boring. So anyways, I just thought that was kind of fun. A little memory from VCF here to have my selfies printed out. All right, so there's a lot of stuff in my bag here. This video might be kind of long. I'm gonna try to go quickly here. Oops, that just fell over. Here's the first thing. This came from Connor, who was actually in that picture there, one of those selfies. Connor bought like a huge box filled with 30-pin SIM sockets. And he was like, would you like one of these trays? And I was like, okay, sure. These are rare and hard to find these days. The thing about these is they are combos where you get two SIMs connected together. So whether that's useful in all situations, I don't know. Not sure if you can split these. Doesn't look like you can split these in half. So you really have to use these in a board that has the sockets arranged as close together as these are. It does have the metal pins though, and that is fantastic. So motherboards that have the plastic ones can be resurrected theoretically with these SIM sockets. So this is obviously a lifetime supply of these. Thank you very much, Connor, for that. I have a few that Aaron from Retro Hack Shack sent in. There was a big surplus store down in San Jose area. Don't remember the name of it. And Aaron bought some there for me and sent them in. Although I think Aaron told me that that place closed during the pandemic. So that's really unfortunate. But anyways, yeah, thanks very much, Connor, for sending these in. So like I'll be set for life. It'd be nice if we could find some of those angled ones that the Macintoshes use with the metal clips. I don't know if that exists, and I don't know if I could put these into the Macintosh and it would work. Like I'd only be able to use the low profile memory modules, obviously, but I don't know if the spacing is correct. But anyways, thanks again, Connor, for these. All right, next up is this. And this is actually something that I picked up and I paid for, that is, from one of the exhibitors. And I think the exhibitor's name was Mike or Scott. I should have written it down, but I didn't. Okay, so what this is, let's see if it actually says this on here. I haven't really looked at it. Okay, well, we can see some of the writing here. The Wi-Fi RetroModem 1200 version 3.1 with audio, copyright 2022, Tatler Solutions, tatlersolutions.com/RetroModem. So if you want to check it out yourself, scan that QR code right now. Yeah, okay, so what this is, a lot of glare on it. It's a replacement PCB for a Hayes smart modem, one of the old aluminum extruded type. Serial port, it takes 5 volts in. There's a little included power supply here. We have a power switch. Looks like programming headers, a few little buttons and stuff. And then we have a speaker, which is in the same position as the original PCB. And then on the front here, we have all the LEDs that are red, and when you turn it on, it looks like the original PCB's in there, but you can see we have an ESP32 on there. I think that's an ESP32, and that does the whole Wi-Fi modem thing. So you basically hook your computer up with this. It acts just like a Hayes modem, but I don't know what's going on. Like there's a little microcontroller here, or how this is working exactly, because I saw a demo, but I didn't get like the technical information on it. But basically, you type in like ATDT, and you put in the IP address or the host name of what you're trying to call. And then this thing has a dial tone, and it has touch tones, and the touch tones are actually the IP address of the resolved host name. So you put in some host name, resolved an IPv4 IP address, and that's what it dials. And if you try to call something that doesn't exist, like host not found, or it can't connect, you get a busy signal. And you have to hit enter and try again. And all the lights on the front were like complete perfect emulation of the real thing. So I'm going to go grab one of those modems. I actually have one I bought that was like a bad modem that for this exact purpose. I was going to try to do it myself, but this is a turnkey solution, which is like perfect. So let me go grab a modem. All right, we have 2 Hayes smart modems here. Is the camera going to focus on it? Oh, look how the LEDs are different. Interesting. So the 300 baud one here doesn't have as many LEDs poking through the front, which means I think that board is really designed to work with the 1200 because it's going to have the width there. So I guess I'm going to be using this 1200. And on the back, the 1200 uses this weird power connector, which I don't think I have a power supply for. I have a power supply right here, 13.5 volts, but that goes with the 300 baud. So why don't we just give the 300 baud a quick test with this power supply here. I just want to see if it's actually working. But I think I don't have the power supply for the 1200 baud modem, so I can't even test that one. That must have been the one I bought that was broken, which is good because we're gonna be reusing it, right? Okay, there's the 300 baud. Let's see what happens. And there we go. Works. Terminal ready, modem ready. We have auto answer, carrier detect, on hook or off hook. Sorry, off hook, which means it's talking to the phone line, receive data and send data. So that's what we have on the 300 baud modem, which appears to be working. And this one, we have a high-speed light to indicate that you're running at 1200 baud, still fast. Well, it's twice as fast as the other one. Everything else is the same. Now, I had one of these modems when I was a kid, and I loved it. I thought it was great because the modem before that was not auto dial. It was like manual dial. It was 300 baud, and you had to sit there and dial your phone and flip a switch to, you know, get the modem working. To get these off, by the way, you just have to use a spudger to kind of move these little plastic things, and then you can slide that off. And then the PCB, I can't remember which way it slides off, so we'll take both of these off, front and back. Okay. Oh, all right, I see. So these like plastic strips can also come off as well. All right, so it looks like before I try to slide it out, I need to get these screws out right here. So we'll take those out. But yeah, the thing is a rusty mess in there. I wonder why this thing doesn't work anymore. Pretty sure the feet that are on here, I stuck on here. I think these black circles were the originals. All right, there it is. So that just slides out, and oh, look at that speaker. That's not looking so great, is it? Now, the thing is, this particular turnkey solution doesn't modify the modem in any way, right? So you could go back to your original board if you so desire, although my original board, well, it's a mess. It is a mess. Incidentally, I saw, I think it was a cathode ray dude video, CRD, and talking about modems and how when you go on hook or you're dialing your modem, talking about how the phone that's attached to the modem is, you know, you could pick it up, you can hear the phone line and stuff like that. Well, these modems, these older ones, have relays here. It actually like cuts off the phone that's connected to the modem. And I remember this because when I had this modem and I talked to friends on the phone and we'd want to like switch to modem use, we'd be on the phone connected to this, and then we would just go to our computer and one of us would type ATO for originate and ATA for answer on the other one, and that would allow him to connect, and it would cut off the phone. You could just leave the phone off hook next to the modem, and when we were done, you did plus to like break out of the session basically, and you could type ATH for hang up, and it would hang up the modem, and then it would just resume the phone call that was happening. So like we could go back to talking. So we could chat, you know, on the modem connection. We'd be like, okay, start Z modem now, like transfer a file, whatever. And then when we're done, like, okay, are we done? Yeah. Okay, we'd hang up, and then we didn't have to even call each other. So that's just a little tidbit. I think cheaper modems later didn't have that capability. They didn't use these relays here, but absolutely these Hayes modems, which were expensive and really good, they did use these relays, and they allowed that kind of functionality. All right, well, let's slide this new board into here. It doesn't have the screw holes on the bottom. I don't know, I'm just gonna like leave the speaker, I guess, just sitting there. And we just slide that in like so. It looks like it's good. So there's the front thingy. So we'll put that on. I just noticed I have the board not in all the way. It's not in one of the slots here. There we go. And there we have it. The board is in there. The power jack just fits perfectly. Of course, we have two holes for the phone lines that aren't used, but the power switch is in the perfect position. And there it is in the front. Okay, so let's get this power supply and we'll give this a quick test. Oh, you know what? I have a serial connection on this computer. There's a cable right over there. So we don't even need to, I don't have to get a USB adapter. This particular machine, well, I either have a serial card in here, which I think no, I don't. Oh, I do. Yes. Yeah, I have a PCI Express serial card. All right, so I'm going to be using this power supply, which came with it, just to make sure we don't have any issues. You do not want to use the original power supply because that supplies AC, and that would be very, very bad. Okay, so that goes in here. So let's see what happens when we turn this on. Yeah. I don't know why it says on hook. It shouldn't be on hook right now, but that could be just how it starts out. So I'll just connect up my serial cable, which I'll just keep handy right there. And there we go. The on hook went off. So now we're just high speed and modem ready. Alrighty, and as soon as I went into PuTTY, the terminal ready light came on, so that's cool. And let's see if I type some stuff. Look at that, it's flashing. AT. Yes, it's working. AT and V. Error. Okay, I don't remember the commands. I'm gonna have to go look up the commands for the Wi-Fi modem so I can get on the Wi-Fi and then we're gonna dial a BBS with this actual Hayes modem. I love this. This is freaking awesome. Here's the product page for this particular thing. I don't know if you can normally buy these or not. Like, I think they get made in small batches and stuff like that. But of course, you go to that QR code that was on the board and you can check for yourself. You can see here that the V3 adds the dialing audio, and that's the version that's in this modem now. And then there's the original modem, and I guess the new one has brighter LEDs. It's using the Z modem software that's available on GitHub. That's like a pretty common firmware that people are using on ESPs to do this exact kind of functionality. And here are the instructions I need to get on the Wi-Fi, and I'm just gonna do that right now. Alrighty, so let's give this a try. I think we're online. AT is okay. Let me find a BBS to call. I just picked one randomly here. It's called The Wheel, and here is the telnet address. I'm assuming I just ATDT this right here, but we'll find out. ATDT, and we'll put that. Oh, listen. I mean, it's not perfect. Oh, and the terminal emulation on PuTTY is not going to be super great. It's not perfect because, you know, it was a bit quicker than it should have been, but you know what? As far as approximation of what this is doing, that's so freaking great. And look, oh, here we go. It's in camera view. Yeah, so the receive data light is blinky blinky, because of course that's what it's doing, and I'm running at 1200 bits per second. You can go faster. I think you just set the computer to a faster speed and it will then connect at a higher speed. So it won't be as slow as it's kind of going right now. Yeah, this is really not working properly. Can I even type here? I don't even know where the cursor went. I gotta reset the terminal here. Reset terminal. Oh, it's still doing something. Okay. 1200 bits per second. It's really slow. Anyhow, you heard that it worked. The sound works. This is like turnkey. I love it. I absolutely love it. The LEDs look totally legit here. Oh, let's try getting out of this. Plus, plus, plus. Does that work? Oh, yes, it does. ATH. And it hung up. I guess the only thing is it's using the on hook light here to signify that you're connected to your Wi-Fi, which is, you know, I guess that's okay. It's just a bit odd. Normally that light comes on once you start dialing. But I suppose it's actually useful in this case to know that you are currently on the Wi-Fi. Anyhow, that is the Wi-Fi retro modem in a Hayes case. Totally love this thing. Yeah, I'm actually really excited about this. I'd really been planning, as I mentioned, to turn this modem into a Wi-Fi modem, and that's pretty easy. You can like buy parts and stuff to do that. But the sound, that's like a whole nother level. And also the emulation of the LEDs so accurately is also the next level. And that's really what I wanted to do, which is why I bought this modem off eBay years and years ago. But now it's finally complete. I didn't even have to do any work. That's just freaking great. So anyways, check it out on this website. You know, I don't know if there's going to be more available, but send a note to them and be like, hey, you saw it on Adrian's channel, and you know, if you want one when they're available. And I highly recommend this. This is freaking great. All right, going through my bag, I found this. Do not touch the outlet, see VAX for help. So this is Patrick, who did the selfie cam thing that I did at the beginning of the video. Patrick also handled all the electrical stuff at VCF Midwest. And there were a lot of power problems, really, because people were plugging in too many things, and the hotel was maxed out for like what they could provide for the power. And people were plugging in like heat guns and stuff like that. So it's causing issues. So Patrick had these all around stuck on top of outlets to say like, do not plug anything into these outlets, because I think it would like cause circuit breakers to trip or whatever. So I stole one and I brought it home because I just thought it was so funny seeing Patrick's face there. So anyways, yeah, thanks Patrick for the smiles. All right, the next one here, this one is a big pile of disc media and stuff like that. This came from viewer Dan. There it is, Dan. Thanks for all that you do. Dan just thought, well, after like binge watching a whole bunch of my videos, that he would try to see if I could bring home some interesting disc media. So I have a whole assortment. We'll just quickly look through it here. I mean, there's nothing, you know, completely revolutionary here, but just kind of cool. So we have what, a single-sided, single-density 8-inch disc here, the one that that Dan signed. Thank you, Dan, for that. We have a double-sided, double-density disc here, which I think I've talked about this before. Let's just do the old comparison. The index hole is in a different position. That's how you can tell these discs apart. Even if the labels were missing, They're just slightly offset. This is the double-sided one. It's just over to the right a little bit more. Okay, we also have a TRS-80 certified diskette here. So this is just a double-sided 8-inch disc, so it'll be just like that other one. I've heard their discs from Radio Shack are not that great. They shed their magnetic material all over the heads and stuff. But this one is in absolute mint condition. Okay, we have an original IBM disc here. IBM Disc 2. I don't know, is this double-sided or single-sided? Let's take a look. Oh, that would be double-sided. Now, I have a bunch of these. They look exactly like this, but they're single-sided discs. And the IBM ones are very, very reliable. I don't know who OEM them for IBM, but they look a little like lighter brown color if you look at the actual media, but they're very, very reliable. So a couple 8-inch discs or a few 8-inch discs. Then this weird deck cartridge here, the RC25K. Don't know too much about this, and it's pretty heavy actually, to be honest, Dan. I did bring it back though. Yeah, Neil Hill, VCF Midwest. I don't know if Dan like picked that up when he was walking around or what. But let's see if we can figure out how to open this. Okay, I think this is how, maybe. Okay, there we go. So I've pulled on this lever and it like exposes the spindle here. So this is like a removable hard drive or disc in there basically. So I guess the heads would load in. Kind of an early version of the SideQuest or whatever. No idea what year this is from. Don't know how much storage capacity this is, but this will be for like a deck fax. In fact, Patrick, who did all the power there in the selfie station, I'm sure could chime in on exactly what this is. Let's keep going. Oh, single-sided disc. So that's just a 5 1/4 inch, but it's single-sided variety. I have a few of these. Nice Varix brand. I don't really recall that. Single-sided double density, soft sectored. Okay, so those are the same as is this one here. Double density, single-sided. Here's a BASF Flexi disc, single-sided as well. The 1D gives it away there. And yep, just a good old single-sided disc. I'll just zoom in a little bit now that we're looking at smaller things. What do we got next here? Single-sided quad density, soft sector with hub ring. Quad density? So, from my understanding, and it's funny, it's single-sided and quad density. Okay, so a lot of these discs say double density and 48 track per inch. What quad density was 96 track per inch, but a regular double density MFM type signal. So you can use a 96 track per inch drive, like one of these 1.2 meg drives. If you run it in dual speed mode and you use a 250 kilobits per second, that's going to write in standard double density, standard data rate, for 360K disk. But when you use the quad density mode, which is like 96 track per inch, instead of 40 tracks, you get 80 tracks. And that's what a 1.2 meg disk does as well. So it basically doubles the capacity. And on a double-sided 360K disk, using a 96 track per inch drive, you'll get 720K, which is the same as the 3.5 inch double density disk. And I don't really know if there's a difference between the quad density discs and the double density 48 track per inch ones versus the 96. I'd love to hear comments of people use these back in the day. And did you need to buy the special media? And did the double density disc not work correctly? Because I've like always just used double density discs. I've never had a single one of these before, and it's always just worked perfectly. It's a weird thing that this is a quad density and single-sided. So, yeah. But anyways, I've used normal double-sided, double-density discs, 48 track per inch, on a 96 track per inch drive as, 720K, and it just worked. Because the heads are much thinner on 96 track per inch drive, so it can write down a very thin track and just packs more information on there. But maybe there's a difference with the media. I'd love to hear more if anyone happens to know those details. And we have another one here, single-sided quad density. So 2 quad density discs. Never seen one in real life, in my life. All right, next up, we have, what's this? This is in its little plastic sleeve here. Single-sided, what? Single-sided 4D, so quad density as well? That's confusing because 135 track per inch, I thought is the normal track per inch on 3.5 inch discs. So what's different about this? Is this just Memorex trying to, I don't know, sell it? Maybe a particular computer specified quad density and these were overpriced discs, but you could just use normal ones? Not 100% sure there. We have another one here. Oh, extended density. So extra high density. Pretty sure this is a 2.88 megabyte disk, and I have never seen a drive that can use these. So I've never had a disk in my possession or the drive that goes with it. Okay, we have a second one here, extra high density. So 2 of those. We have an Apple disk box, Oak Brook Computer Center, connecting point computer center with Apple branding on it. Fancy. I think this flips up here. Oh, and I stuck something in there. Okay, that's for later. We're gonna look at that in a little bit. Okay, so yeah, empty disc box. We have a 10-pack of single-sided double density discs. I mean, that's just a weird thing. Now, obviously, if you have a single-sided disk drive, like on an early Macintosh, they have single-sided drives. You can just use a double-sided disc, and it works without issue. There's no like difference. It's just not using the other side. So the fact that they actually sold these is pretty hilarious. Now, a lot of people had single-sided discs like these, and you could use the backside and it would work almost always. I think the difference is that Sony and Verbatim, they actually certified these discs were good when you bought them, but they weren't certified the second side. So potentially, if they were like manufacturing these discs, they would be formatting them all. And if you had discs where the second side failed in their validations, they would put it in these boxes and call it single-sided, and they'd do the same with these discs, single-sided discs. So it was a way to, like, you know, increase their yields a little bit. We have Scotch Betamax tape here, L750. We had a Beta deck when I was a kid. I mean, we had a VHS as well. We had both. My dad owned a video store, so therefore, you know, we were able to get stuff from the store, tapes or movies and the decks. So we had both, but very quickly we got rid of that Beta deck. I don't really recall much about it. We had a Panasonic VHS, and that thing was a workhorse, and I used the heck out of that thing, and it worked for a long time. But there we go, a Beta tape, still shrink wrapped. I don't have a Beta deck, so I can't even try this, but that is pretty cool. Now, I know there's another disc floating around. It's got to be in all the stuff on the floor here, but there was one more disc that I got from Dan, and it was a 3.5 inch, but the kind with the oval hole. So it's like the really early version. I think they don't have as many tracks on them. It was the, oh yeah, and the little, well, what do we call it? The shutter is not spring-loaded on that one. It actually opens and you have to close it manually. That is here somewhere in the house. So Dan, thanks very much for this interesting assortment of very old media and stuff like that. It's just neat to have some of this stuff. I will probably, oh, I guess I won't end up using this stuff. I don't know. I'll just put it with my discs. Maybe I will try to format this stuff. I won't do it now. Definitely I'll be putting these 8-inch discs with my other 8-inch discs, because these aren't, you know, the most common things in the world. And every 8-inch disc I could get that works still is a good disc. Anyways, thanks again, Dan. I was just looking in there and I found the disc. This is it right here. Sony Auto Shutter micro floppy disk, single-sided. And oh, this one is spring-loaded. Okay, some of them were not, and that's why it says auto there. I think this is compatible with the standard drive. Like, I could use this in a regular floppy drive. I don't know. In fact, if anyone knows for sure, let me know. But this is the only one I've ever had in my possession that has this oval hole, which is pretty cool. In addition, there's this, the Scotch 3M personal computing cassette. So I think this is a 10-minute tape, and still shrink wrapped. And yeah, it'd be for recording your basic programs from your data set or whatever. And I'm sure, I don't know if it's any different quality or whatever, but I know when I was a kid, I just used normal audio tapes, and well, on the data sets, the Commodore data set, that was a very reliable tape drive, I got to say. You didn't have any of those problems with the volume control and stuff like you had on other computers that just used a normal audio tape recorder. The data set, those levels were set automatically, which is very handy. All right, here is the next package, or package item, whatever it is. This came from the owner of this, Techdungeon here. Oh, there's a card on the floor here. The reason why I'm sort of disorganized here is because to pack this in my suitcase, I had to sort of stuff everything into everywhere, and it all got a little jumbled up. So Techdungeon here, who was this? So I'm sorry, I already forgot your name. Maybe it's written in here. Very nice gentleman and his wife run this business, 3D printing all this stuff. So what we have here, for instance, is the TI-99 joystick adapter. Plugs into the side of the TI-99, allows you to use 2 standard joysticks. That's pretty cool. I actually don't have one of those. And then in here we have a couple little fridge magnets as well. There were coasters and all sorts of other things. In fact, I think I have some coasters down there, but it came from someone else. So these are little fridge magnets, also stuff that they sell. This is a mounting bracket for what this is right here. And this is pretty special here. So move the box out of the way. Let's get this out of the packaging here. Now, I haven't tested or used any of this stuff. So what we have here is a pixel art display. Looks like USB Type-C. Let me grab a cable. There is some paper here. The Techdungeon 16x16 RGB display. There are 200 pictures and animations to run for over 20 minutes. All LEDs are individually controllable, so it's just the usual addressable LEDs. To activate the LED, simply add the power or plug in USB-C. All right, let's power this up. I have a power bank here. We have a cable, so let's get this connected up. This is USB-A to C. Should do the trick. There's even a little notch in the case here to allow the cable to connect easily. Actually, let me unplug the power from the power bank so we can see this properly. I'm assuming the power cord goes down. Let's plug this in. All right, there it goes. Yes. Try to get the glare out of there. Aha, so yeah, my logo. This is what's special about it. They loaded up some stuff on here just for me. So there it is, Adrian's Digital Basement. Oh, I love it. I freaking love it. So this is very similar to that little pixel art display thing I have on my bench here. I was sent in by the company that makes that thing years ago, but this was, you know, made by these guys. Oh, I think that's supposed to be like my logo at the beginning, you know, or not the logo, the that kind of retro look that has where my logo flying over it. 8-bit dance party. Now I'm assuming, yeah, it's custom PCB in here. And then this is all 3D printed, and there's this like diffusion layer on here to diffuse the LEDs. And I'm pretty sure that you can customize this as well. So there's like instructions on here. Yeah, GitHub. Oh yeah, so open source firmware updates as well. And look at this, showing some logos here. Apple, the Atari logo. We need if that was animating. Commodore logo. Oh, and it's, I know I can see it in the preview here, like the way it looks through the camera. It is not, oh, that TRC, that's great. It is so much more vibrant in, you know, in person than it is on the camera. The only thing the camera is doing is it's like making the white is sort of a purplish hue, and it actually looks a bit more white in the camera than it does in real life. But like this red is so deep red, and in the camera it just looks kind of orange. But I love it. I freaking love it. So as I said, you can go to their store here, which I'm assuming is, here it is, Techdungeon.xyz or Z. And I'm sure that they're on there for sale and stuff. I don't know how much this costs because, as I said, this was just handed to me as like a thank you for all the videos and stuff like that. But I really love it. I'm just going to have to figure out where in the basement here because it's a little cluttered down here now. I have to figure out where to put this. Although maybe I should put it up in my office upstairs. It would be kind of cool to have it on video. I do have that little pixel art display thing there that's plugged back in. I had that turned off for a long time. I don't know. I'll find a place to put this. But yeah, this is pretty cool, and I like it. It's kind of like a DIY project that they designed and did the 3D printing. I love it. I freaking love it. Thank you very much for that. I think there might have been some other stuff, but I can't remember that came from Techdungeon here. And I am sorry, I already forgot your names. I wish it was written on here. The business card here has the address, so Lebanon, Ohio, and sales support and the URL. And there it is, Techdungeon. Yeah, cool. Thank you. And yes, I can actually finally play games properly on the TI because the TI joysticks I have are garbage. I was gonna like cut the cables and try to like manually wire in something, but with this, I could just use my NES controller now. So I love it. I absolutely love it. All right, a little bit of a jump cut, wardrobe change, and the bench is a mess because, well, it's the next day and, well, I've done some stuff. I brought everything that I haven't shown yet up onto the bench, but I wanted to revisit this cartridge here. This is that, well, I took the screws out of it. This is that deck cartridge. It's called the RC25K. Screws are out of it because I wanted to show the inside. I talked to Patrick, and apparently this is a 52 megabyte cartridge. Funny that they called it the 25, but I guess DEC had a very specific naming structure for all their devices. Either way, I wanted to pull the cover off this. So I just took out the screws, and let's see what's inside. And one of the screws has re-screwed itself. There we go. That's funny. Here we go. Ready for the reveal? Look at that. Isn't that a thing of beauty? Let's zoom in on this a little bit. You'll notice this has had a head crash of some kind. Oh no. And you can see this metal spindle thing in the middle here, and it's on a big springy thing, and this is obviously where it's gripped by some kind of assembly to spin the disc. And if we take this away, there's this spring mechanism thing there. And on the other side, there is a date. Let's get this back on here. Is that a date? 1993? Really? Or is that not a day? Is that not a day? That seems pretty late, but I guess it's not. If you think about it, this is 52 megabytes. It's kind of similar to a SideQuest cartridge, isn't it? Is this 8 inches in size? Oh, let's grab an 8-inch disc on the floor here. Let's see how big this is. I guess it is 8 inches, look. It's basically the same size. So SideQuest cartridge, if I recall, was 45 megabytes, and it was 5¼ inch size. I think the time frame would have been similar, although maybe this cartridge came out a lot sooner. You know, it had been out for years and years, if this is even an accurate date code. But it's pretty cool looking. I like it. In fact, because I don't really have a use for this, I think I'm going to keep this out of the case, and this would look pretty nice on the wall, actually. Yeah, little art piece sort of thing. Just don't touch it. No, just kidding. There was a comment on my recent MFM video, MFM hard drive video that is. One of my viewers says they took a bunch of discs out of these old hard drives like this and made wind chimes out of it, which could be pretty cool because, yeah, there's a resonance going on there. So anyhow, all right, I just wanted to kind of show in there. Let's dig into the rest of the stuff on the bench. All right, where to begin? Well, first off, I got this photograph here. Let's zoom in on this. It's a Game Boy camera picture, and it's printed out on like a, is this a, not Kodak, Polaroid Instax, I think it's called. It's like a little instant self-developing photograph. So this nice fan here came up, and on the back, it's kind of hard to read. And at ZABRAJ, I guess must be his handle, maybe on X/Twitter or whatever. Unfortunately, I had a really a Sharpie that was not very fine point, hence the writing's not very clear there. But I absolutely love this, and I'm going to need to take a photograph of this and keep it in my gallery, because I've been asking anyone who saw me at VCF Midwest, or any of the VCFs for that matter, to go ahead and email me the photographs if you had a selfie with me, and that way I can add it to my gallery just to remember you by, and also have your name and put it in my I put it in my gallery with your name and email address, so if I ever talk to you in the future, I have a reference on how you look, which I love. Next up is this, and this comes from Sean, who is one of David Murray's friends. I don't know if Sean has his own channel or not, but I met him a couple times, and he came to VCF Midwest with David and David's wife, Leslie, and this is a keychain he made, and he had several available. I guess he's doing this for fun, and he gave this to me, or let me pick which one I wanted. An AW11 MR2. I used to have a Corolla GTS AE92, not the AE86, but I had the front wheel drive version. 1989 was my car. I think, what year did that car come out in? 87, I think, after the rear wheel drive AE86 was out. All of these cars, this MR2 AW11 and my car and the AE86 GTS, that is, had the 4AGE engine, which I loved, and I loved that car, and I drove the heck out of it in the 90s, and I got rid of it in around 2001 when I traded into a different car, and yeah, I have a real soft spot in my heart for these, so yeah, that's pretty cool. I really like that, and as you can see here, we have a nice box as well, and there it is, Sean Mr. 2. So I don't know if you can buy these or what, but yeah, that's pretty sweet. Who doesn't need a cool keychain? All right, let's keep going here. So this is the tape cart, and it looks like it came from John. I can't quite make out your last name, John, but John handed this over to me, and well, it's for Commodore machines that have the regular dataset port, so the PET all the way through, well, everything except for the Amiga, so all the 8-bit machines, plugs into the tape port. Now, I have something similar to this, but mine's not exactly the same. Mine has a headphone jack on it, so you can plug in your phone or, you know, a computer, and you can play back a WAV file. This just actually takes an SD card. So I haven't tested this, but I'm assuming that this SD card is filled with little programs and stuff. Oh, there we go. I should have pushed it to clicking out. And yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, of course, I'm not hugely fond of loading stuff off tape because it's really, really slow. But something like this is pretty cool if you want to kind of remember those old days, but not have to deal with the tapes going bad and all that kind of stuff that happened with those. Plus your data set may be out of alignment or the belts are bad or whatever. So the tape cart, which I'm assuming if you Google for this, you can find these. Thank you very much, John, for handing that over to me. Let's keep going here. Okay, this says Chris on the bag here. Hopefully I got it right because I have something else here that came from Chris as well, but this is KRIS. So I don't know if that was the same Chris and I just miswrote this. This is where we're getting down to like lots of random stuff here, and I just don't know, I don't fully remember what came from who and whatever. So these, what are these? Okay, so this is, I remember now, the early Amiga 500s, if you're trying to use or update the ROM to a newer Kickstart 2.0 ROM, you have to do a little bit of a bodge on the bottom of the board to move one of the address lines around. And I did a video on one of those, and I don't remember which video it was, but there was a video where I struggled for a little bit to try to get it working because I'd never run into that, not being an Amiga expert, at least working on Amigas. So what these do is, there's two of them here. This allows you to plug your EEPROM into it, or I suppose even the newer Kickstart ROM into the socket, plug this into the motherboard, and it will automatically reroute those lines around. Because that's all that's really happening is some rerouting, and I think you have to break one of the lines or something like that. And then it allows that newer ROM to work. And that's because the original Kickstart ROMs on the 500 were only, now I might be getting this wrong, but like 256K, and the later ones were 512, and because of that there's a missing address line, and it just doesn't work if you put it in place on the motherboard. Later ones, there's really no issue, but on the earlier ones, that is a problem. Well, as you can see there, this is open source hardware, but there doesn't appear to be a URL on here. It says Retro Ninja, and it says ROM adapter right here, A500 ROM adapter. I'm sure if you Google, you'll be able to find these. So that's a cool way to do it. If you don't want to modify your Amiga 500, then this is a perfectly good solution. And it's nice because it seems like it's really easy to build if you have the PCBs made at one of the various PCB manufacturers. Thank you very much for that, Chris. Very awesome. And speaking of Chris's, here's another one from the other Chris with a K. Hopefully that's not the same person, and I feel embarrassed if that is. All right, what this is, and there's a QR code there, so you can go ahead and scan that if you would like to. This is a PLA replacement for the 64, or yeah, Commodore 64, and this uses Daniel Mantione's Gal-Pal board, basically, but a mini shrunk down version. Daniel's board is double width because it has two of these Gal chips. So what this one does is it just simply respun the board where one of the gals is on the underside. So it's a little tricky to manufacture. And if I recall, Chris told me if you go here, you can download the files for this and the instructions on how to assemble this, because you got to get this kind of all in the right order. That way you don't have trouble putting it together. But I kind of love that because in the machine, that looks much more like the original PLA, like it's not a PCB hanging off the edges and stuff. So that's just pretty cool. And I really like that Chris put this sticker on here with the original PLA part number. If you don't know about Daniel's project, I made a video about it. This is a number of years ago, and Daniel's done a whole bunch of really cool stuff. In fact, Daniel sent me a whole care package that has a bunch more projects he's worked on, and I have yet to show it on the channel. So I feel really bad about that. I'm just so far behind all the time on everything mail call. But some of the stuff that Daniel worked on are some ROM replacement boards, but he also did a CPU replacement for the TED machine. So that's like the Commodore Plus 4 and the C16. And you can use a normal 6502, and there's extra logic there that allows you to basically emulate those extra missing functions that are inside that CPU specifically for those TED machines. And if I recall, he did the same thing for a 6510 as well, which is the C64 CPU, but I might be mistaken on that part. But either way, like I said, this is an evolution of Daniel's work, which was amazing and really saved people from having to buy expensive PLA replacements, because these Gal PLA replacements are very easy to make and are all over eBay. And this is just the little shrunk down version. So yeah, thanks very much, Chris, for that. I love it. The next thing I have here, and I can't remember who gave these to. I think it was from Greg. So Greg, if it was you, thank you very much. But if not, I'm sorry, I don't remember who, because I didn't write it on the bag like I tend to try to do. All these simply are is a little USB jack, well, it plugs into a USB port like a power bank, and it gives you clip leads. So you could take something like a power bank, which, oh, I have one right here that we were using earlier, and now we have 5 volts available on here super easily. So that's pretty cool. I think I saw these before. I don't even know where these come from, but maybe you can find these from eBay or Amazon or whatever, AliExpress, but pretty useful little things. Thanks, Greg, for that. Next up, we have some stickers here. These are just some case badges. These come from, what's this, Geek & Spiel, retro PC style here. And there is a QR code, which you can scan if you so desire. Looks like we have some case badges here, which is kind of cool because I have a few cases upstairs that do need some badges. They are badge-less. And I'm not talking about where the CPU goes, or the, you know, the CPU Intel inside sticker. This is actually the little square thing. Most cases, even going back to the really old days, and I think it started on the IBM PC because it has the IBM badge. And let me just quickly see, is this the same size? Yeah, I think this would fit like on your 5170. If you were missing the case badge, you could use these. So we just have a couple of these here. There's one for VCF Midwest 18. That was the logo for the show we were just at. And it looks like another one there. That's actually the hotel and the convention center where that was. And then this is also a VCF one. I don't remember who this was. Is there a name? If I open this up here, Windows Pentium stickers, everything else. Yeah, there were a ton of stickers, like every kind of sticker you could imagine, all these reproductions. It was pretty awesome. Oh, maybe there's a name on this card here. There it is, Stephen Cooper. So yes, thanks Stephen for that. Pretty sweet. And oh, look, they're retro inside. That's pretty cool as well. You can go to Stephen's website there at that QR code and check out the selection. There was a whole bunch there. You know, it sort of reminds me, as I was walking around the show floor, I just had very little time to actually stop and smell the roses, so to speak. I was just chit-chatting with fans the whole time. There was very little time for me to go to people's booths. So some of this stuff that I'm about to show you are sort of things that I got given by people who were exhibiting, like Steven, that I just happened to walk by and they were like, oh, Adrian. So they talked to me for a moment and then I was able to grab that from them. But I wish I had spent more time just actually seeing the exhibits. By the time when the show floor was quiet, like there weren't people around, also the exhibitors weren't there either, because, you know, people needed breaks. They went to dinner or lunch or whatever. So yeah, by the evening I'd walk around and there just wasn't anyone around. They had all like gone home. So I didn't get to see it. So anyways, a little bit of a regret there. Every time I do VCF, I always think I need to spend more time smelling the roses, so to speak. And yeah, I just, like every time, I didn't do that. All right, the next project is something I have in my test bench right here, and this is such a cool thing. So this comes from Freddie, and it's the PicoMEM. Now this is an ISA card. It's a software-defined ISA card. Essentially, I feel that software-defined cards are like the new frontier. This is the direction we're heading. And this is a Raspberry Pi 2040. And these boards are very, very inexpensive. I think they're like $5 or whatever. Soldered onto here. There's some like buffers and level shifters and things like that there. There's an SD card slot. And that's all that's really on this card. If we look at the back here, there's from Freddie. There's some thanks there, which if I zoom in, you should be able to read there, and a few warnings and whatnot. This card is very, very early in its development. It's not ready for video. It's not really ready for sale or whatnot. There is a Vogons thread that I'll probably be showing here in editing. I'll add this in. You can go there if you want to participate in the project, you know, offer some insight or testing or things like that. I think they're kind of looking for help compatibility testing this thing. But this was given to me, well, by Freddie Proxy of Ian, who's working on another similar project to this, but with sound cards. And I will have one of those to show off soon. There were none left that I could get at the show, but I've been chatting with Ian. He's going to be sending me one, and I'm going to have to make a video about that. But anyways, yeah, talking to Freddie and his crew on Discord, they're not ready for like a full video on this. There's a lot of like stuff that's still being worked on, but I have to say this is a really, really cool project. And I know I've kind of gone on here without even talking about what it does. Well, let me just quickly show you because this one actually works. I'll pop it in my system. So here it is in my 386SX system. Now the thing is about the Raspberry Pis here, this is essentially doing all the heavy lifting, talking to the entire system. And this is very similar to the VGA card work, the Apple II VGA card that David Cooter made that I showed on my channel, I don't know, several videos ago. Works in exactly the same way, except this is running on the ISA bus, which can run up to 8 megahertz, you know, if you're running it in spec. So this can't really handle 8 megahertz, not really, because of the fact that this is a Raspberry Pi 2040, only has limited amount of capability. But it does work in this system right now. I have the ISA bus configured for 6.5 megahertz or so. And let's show you what this does. All right, so with the system starting to boot here, it's just the normal RAM check here, and this system is running at 33 megahertz right now, so this is a bit out of spec for it, but there it is. It popped up there. It says go into setup. Here is the setup for the PicoMEM card. So what can this card do? Well, the first thing it can do is it can fill the rest of your memory. So if you have only 512K of RAM, it can boost you all the way up to 640K. Now, it also handles EMS, and I have EMS enabled here, so there it is, port 268 at E1000, and it can do up to 2 megabytes of EMS memory. It also has the ability to expand more memory than 128 in conventional memory space, but it has to use something called PSRAM to do it, and it's a bit slow. So your extended memory won't be running at full speed, unlike the first 128K. And that has to do with the memory limitations of the Pico, or the Pi Pico 2040. But the fact is, the Pico is software defined, and that just means that there are so many capabilities that this thing can do, and all you have to do is update the firmware to completely change its functionality. So there are possibilities in the future of like emulating a serial port, a mouse port, I mean, who knows, all sorts of stuff. Now, it's limited by the GPIO lines on the Pi Pico, so you can't have like a video card on here and RAM and hard drive and all these other things. That's not possible, there aren't enough lines. So you'd need some different cards for like different capabilities and things like that. It can also emulate a floppy drive, well, 2 floppy drives, the A and the B controller, and it can emulate up to 4 hard drives. So I currently on the SD card have, well, 1 disk image of the, oh, it's funny how it says the CPM86 is 320 megabytes. I think that's a bug, and it should say 320 kilobytes. Anyways, and hard drive 0 is 246 megs, and you can turn the boot code off and on, and you know, I only have these disk images that are on here right now, but you can kind of select that stuff. And yeah, so, and there's nothing in advanced right now, at least that I can tell. And if we exit out of here and you watch the system boot, so there it is, it quickly showed the things. Now it's asking me boot from A, so I missed it. It's going to boot off the hard drive. So there it is, it's running the low-tech EMS driver, and that is loading the 2 megabytes of EMS. And let's see what happens. Let's see, I was trying to boot off the floppy disk. Okay, so here is booting the floppy disk. So we have, yep, there we go. We were on CPM86 here, and it totally emulated the floppy disk. So on an XT machine, if you have no working floppy drives, well, there you go. You can just copy stuff onto the SD card, and you have floppy drives. Now, if we reboot again, and we'll let this thing boot up here. So yeah, you can see micro SD card, memory okay, USB disabled. I think there is some USB support that's they're working on. So there it is. So this, what we're seeing here, is actually running on this card. So yeah, there's just a ton of potential for this thing. It's really the future, and it's gonna be cheap as well. If you look at the Pi 2040, it's so inexpensive on this pretty simple carrier board. And then I wouldn't say sky's the limit, because you're like, you know, limited by the power of the 2040 plus the GPIO lines. But there's just so much potential for this, and it's super exciting to actually get to see this working. And talking to Kevin and Ian there at the show, it was just blowing my mind actually, like what some of that stuff is. So looking forward to getting Ian's board. Yeah, thank you, Freddie, for sharing this with me. And if anyone's really interested in this, I recommend you go to that Vogons thread and post there, and you can get engaged with the community, and you know, maybe you can offer some help with the development or testing or features or things like that. I think they would really appreciate it. And I don't have any idea of like when this will be released or when it will be made public or anything like that, but this is sort of like a little preview of it. And I don't know, I freaking love it. I freaking love it. All right, and back to the bench here. Let's see, this is some stuff for the Nabu. And I do not remember the gentleman's name who gave this to me, these PCBs. It looks like, well, what does this even do? Connects to the Nabu PC slot, any slot, and then offers you LEDs. So I guess this is like some kind of a diagnostic module, maybe. CPU, yeah, LEDs. Okay, so this must just be some type of diagnostics, and then voltage test points and things like that. So that's pretty cool. And then what we have next, these are pretty cool. Let me zoom in on these. I'm quite sure that these are actually the same, like these are 2 pairs of these things. The Tang Nano TN VDP. So the point of these, from my understanding, these go underneath the video display processor on the Nabu, but it would work on anything that uses the same VDP, which very specifically is the TI-9918, I think, at least in North America here. ColecoVision uses it. TI-99 uses it, I'm sure. Oh, MSX uses it as well. The early MSXs, at least that don't have it integrated into a larger IC. This goes underneath, passes through, and then, oh, flipping this over, we have some dip switches right here on the top. We have a couple ICs here. These are like bus transceivers or like level shifters. And then what is this? Yeah, another level shifter. And then it goes off this header right here to this little board, which my assumption is it goes between that and it has a ladder DAC. And then there's actually a VGA connector. So then I don't know exactly what you do exactly with it. I don't see how that's going to be displaying VGA. It'll be 15 kilohertz, I guess. Don't totally know how this is supposed to work, but It could be this is just displaying 15 kilohertz RGB video, analog video that could go to like a Commodore 1084 or whatever, and then you're doing away with the whole composite video problem. So it just looks a lot nicer. I wouldn't be surprised if there's something like this available already for the RGB to HDMI as well, that could then give you nice HDMI upscaling without requiring, well, a VGA monitor or 15 kilohertz monitor specifically. So yeah, sorry that I don't remember your name. I should have written it on the boards, but this again was like a last minute thing that was handed over to me and I don't recall who it was. But thank you very much for giving these to me. I really appreciate it. And now it's funny, all these PCBs here, I have a box filled with them and I haven't really put many together. Back in the old days, early days of the channel, when I had a lot more time on my hands, I could build projects like this, and I did. But nowadays, well, due to time constraints, if I'm, say, shopping online and I see like a kit form or an assembled form, I'll just pay for the assembled form, because time is something I don't have enough of. I wish I had like a clone of myself, then I could have the clone build things. But as it is right now, that's not the case. So I do love these PCBs. I like to show it off, especially because, you know, people know these are out there and they can go find the PCBs, get them made for themselves, and then build these projects. But for me personally, yeah, fully assembled is certainly more likely to have me end up using it. And speaking of that, let's move on to the next thing here. So this stuff here comes from Dave, and I think Dave gave me a bunch of stuff. So that's Dave as well, and that's Dave. I think that was it, these three things. Well, let's take a look at what this is. These are some assembled things. So Super Salt diagnostic cartridge for the Atari 8-bit. This is some kind of a diagnostic cartridge. Always turn off your Atari. So funny that, you know, I really appreciate the silk screening and stuff that whoever created this did. But it wouldn't have been too hard for someone who's not an expert like me just to write Atari 400/800 or 2600 or 7800 or whatever it's for on the side. It's kind of amusing. I think it, you know, it just comes with the territory. Like whoever made this knows a ton about Ataris and can like look at this and instantly know, oh, that's for the whatever. But you have to remember, if you're making something like this that, you know, is going to go on, well, PCBWay, obviously, well, people like me just aren't super familiar with what the inside of a cartridge looks like on one of these systems. So anyways, that's cool though. Obviously a diagnostic cartridge is very handy. So next time I have whatever this is for, Atari 8-bit on the bench, I'll test it out. So that's awesome. And next up we have another cartridge, and this one here is the ROM bit. The ROM bit? Well, I have to say, I'm not even familiar with what the ROM bit is. I haven't heard of this, and it's reverse engineered GAL here, so that's doing some bank switching maybe or whatnot. We have an EEPROM there. Is this a C64 cartridge? Yes, it looks like it is, and the reason why you can kind of tell is you see how those contacts there are joined together. I think that's a C64 thing, because I can see it here on this diagnostic cartridge. So yeah, some type of 64 diagnostic. I have a post here about it. I made a copy of the black box cartridge, the most advanced cartridge for the black box family, designed and produced in Poland from 1980 1990s, the ROM bit company. These are very popular. Additional functions like turbo for the disk drives, for adjusting the tape head. Oh, so the azimuth, that's cool. Basic extensions, dot matrix printer extensions. It also supported additional screen modes, I guess that means. Up to 3x2, which could be program characters, basic support for windowed programs, unique functions for printers, and there's the PCBWay cartridge. And well, I guess it has a 27C256, hence that's what the bank switching is for on that GAL. Is this the original one, the black box V9? And here is a post in Polish that probably has a lot more details. Anyway, if you are familiar with this, please let me know. Next time I'm working on a 64, I'll have to give this thing a try and see some of the features. Since I'm not really a 64 programmer, a lot of the basic extensions and stuff like that aren't specifically useful to me. Moving on, this video is super duper long. Looks like we have a Ghostbusters cartridge. Ah, there it is. So yeah, Ghostbusters. The Ghostbusters game cartridge. Unforgettables of the C64. And we have a couple chips there. Probably due to bank switching as well, because I don't remember off the top of my head how much space the cartridges could take up on the 64. Maybe it was like 16K maximum. And the 256 chip, for instance, we were just looking at, I think is a 32K chip. So games would use bank switching to be able to support the extra capacity they needed to be fully functional. So there we go. Thank you very much, Dave, for that. That is pretty sweet. Again, I was just walking through, I think, somewhere in the convention hall, and I bumped into Dave, and he was like, oh, I got something for you, and then he handed it over. And along those lines, we have something else here, and this comes from, this is for the Apple II, and we have a letter here. This comes from Daniel, and this is the Dan 2 controller. Press space for the menu when booting, and you put it into slot 7, and there is a GitHub repo right there. So github.com/profdc9/Apple II card. I'll try to put that in the description below. And what this is also a very capable card for the Apple II. We have 2 SD card slots, an AT Mega of some kind of, I don't even know what this chip is here. Zenluda XD82C55. Oh, that's like a parallel I/O chip. Okay, so probably has 16 lines in and out to talk to this stuff like the SD cards. And then, oh, this is an Ethernet PHY. So these were very common on the Arduino. Essentially, this thing is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So you just talk to this over some I/O lines, and then you can have Ethernet capabilities. And here's a 28C256. So that is a programmable ROM chip there for loading the firmware and whatever. We got a couple more of these. These are, oh, I've just never heard of this brand, Zenluda. That's funny. 74 LS32s. Apple II Forever, the Dan 2 controller version 1.1, and these are some additional parallel I/O lines that come off this IC, I guess ones that weren't used. Now, Daniel told me that there were all sorts of alternative firmwares available for this card. So the one that's on here, he said, is not the only one out there. Apparently this has been around for a few years, but with those additional firmwares, it gives the thing extra capabilities and different ways of working. And I guess maybe you could use some of these lines for additional functionality. But indeed, this is like a pretty cool project, and open source hardware, of course, so you can make it and you can load different disk images and whatever and boot up off this thing. And yeah, it's just freaking awesome. I know I've said that a lot this video, but I really do believe that. Let's go take a look at this GitHub repo. All right, here we go. This is it. So Apple II card, there's the card. A simple card provides 2 SD card slots for mass storage to ProDOS, as well as networking using that WizNet W5500 AT Mega 328P, which I heard are being discontinued, by the way. Has anyone heard about that they're discontinuing this particular chip here? The one that was on the original Arduino Uno, which is very surprising. Anyhow, the AT Mega interface is the 82C55, which I think is the chip that's used on like every PC parallel port card, incidentally, to the Apple II. And it uses a few other simple logic gates here to do that interface. The peripheral interface there is the flash memory chip, and it's allowing you to extend the functionality of your Apple II. The Gerbers are there. You can just have it made right away very easily. Looks like it supports like a raw block mode for the SD cards, or you can use a fat file system where you can load different disk images. So you'd be able to load like Total Replay. I think that's what it's called, Total Replay. That's all those Apple games that are combined together onto this thing with no issues. You can use Cider Press, which is a Windows program for like loading files in and out of those disk images. Looks like it prompts you at boot for what you want to do, at least with the firmware that's the stock firmware. And I don't immediately see all these alternative firmwares that Dan was telling me about, but very, very cool. And it was really cool to meet Dan in person. He was a super nice guy. Thank you very much, Dan, for handing this to me. And this is yet another freaking cool project. All of this stuff is just absolutely amazing that this exists. So definitely put comments down below if you've used one of these before, especially if there's alternative firmwares for this that can do extra stuff. But I love this. And there's another project coming up, which I need to make a video about. It's the FujiNet project. And of course, that's been around on the Atari for a while, but there's an Apple II version now and stuff for other systems as well, Commodore 64. And that is amazing. And it plugs in externally via like the disk drive port and can do all sorts of stuff, including networking and Wi-Fi modem and all this amazing things. So the future of this stuff is incredible, and I absolutely positively love it. But yeah, Dan, thanks for giving this to me. And again, check that out, everyone, if you're interested in checking out this project. Unfortunately, I don't have time in this video to test this stuff out, but I'm definitely going to be testing out all this assembled stuff that has been given to me at a future time. We are not done, everyone. There is more. This is, I think, the last thing. I hope it's the last thing. So this stuff comes from, oh, that sticker got a little messed up here, KMac Vintage. So KMac was doing they had a nice exhibit there, and I ended up walking over and chit-chatting a little bit as well. First thing was this one. So I'm trying to recall, but I'm pretty sure this is what this is. You plug this into your Apple machine disk drive port. And what this will do is it will display, you know, roughly the voltages, the 5 volts, 12 volts, and I think minus 5 volts or minus 12, whichever it was. And has a decimal point that will show up. These little displays aren't the most accurate things in the world, but still, they're pretty good. Good enough just to make sure your power supply is working. You're not like missing voltage rails or whatever. And on the Mac, you can just pop this in the back on the Mac that has a disk drive port, that is, and it's a very quick way to see if your power supply is working. Now this one here, I'm pretty sure if I remember the explanation is this is just a little remote unit. So you can plug this one in the back. Incidentally, it has a very nice 3D printed connector here because these are very hard to get. These DB19 or whatever it is. It's not the normal 15. So 3D printed. You use the keyboard cable to plug in there, like an S-video type cable, but that has all 4 wires separately wired. And then you plug it into this one here, and then it will be able to display your voltages even when nothing connected there. So it's allow you to like do it remotely and like have this in a viewable location, oops, from the front of the machine. So that's very cool. And then these are some memory modules that not only are memory modules themselves, so these are just normal SIMs, I think they're 1 megabyte each, but they have LEDs on them. And the LEDs will blink to indicate read-write activity on the system. So if you have a suspected problem with your Mac, or well, anything that uses 30-pin memory modules, to be honest, then you could verify that the machine is trying to execute or do something, because you need to be having blinky action happening on those LEDs. So if we flip these over, there's a little tiny IC here, which I'm assuming is what allows it to, I don't know, drive the signals to the LEDs. And then I like how the memory chips are kind of offset. That's fun. This would be for like a parity memory chip, which is not installed on these. It's not really completely necessary. What we can do is test these out inside my 386 test bench, which is sitting right here. So let's just plug these in and try that out. All right, turning on the power. Whoa, those are bright. Check that out. I freaking love that. I'm assuming the reds are the reads and the blue must be the writes. Now, of course, those lines are shared. Well, I don't know about this motherboard, but on a lot of systems, those are shared between a bunch of things on the system. Therefore, if it's reading from the ROMs or writing to the cards and stuff, then those are going to blink. But right there, the fact that they're not blinking just solidly, they're changing. That tells us that this thing is totally running. It's doing something right now. But yeah, this is not Mac specific. Anything that's 30-pin SIMs, these will work in. And that is a really freaking ingenious solution. I've never seen something like this. And on a Mac, there's no such thing as a postcard like there is on a PC. Also, notice it's not even blinking on this one now. It's only the front one. Anyways, back to what I was saying. If you have a system without a post analyzer, like an Amiga or a Mac or whatever, then that is a great way to know that you have a properly, well, at least a partially functioning system. It's not like I can tell the system is running from that, but I know that it's working better than, well, for instance, if it was dead altogether. And here's an example. Let me pull the crystal oscillator out of this board. There we go. And now if we power cycle the computer, we're not going to get anything. See? Nothing. That right there, that tells us that the system cannot work. It cannot work in this state. That's impossible. Without the crystal in there, the CPU is not doing anything, so it's not even trying to write to anything. It's just the read line is stuck on this particular system. Anyways, yeah, I love that. That is amazing. And the final thing, there's one more little thing here that they gave me, and I don't recall what this is. That looks like a floppy drive connector, the one that the Macs use internally. But what's this? I don't know. Oh, Will was the person who gave this stuff to me too. Yeah, hi Will. I'm gonna have to go see if I can look this up because I don't remember what this is. KMac Vintage. Let's see if the tubes can tell us what this is. Okay, so here's some of the stuff they had. They had a bunch more stuff that I didn't get from them. Oh, they had gears. Yeah, gears to fix those crummy floppy drives. So they had a whole bunch of ROM sims that would allow you to use like your SE30 or Mac 2CI or whatever with like additional capabilities. So that's cool. And they were authorized by Big Mess of Wires to sell their ROM in there or something. But there's a programmer here. There is the ROM sim, and there's an 8 meg version and a 2 meg version. And here are the blinky RAMs, only $7. Like, hello, that is really a good deal. Those are an amazing diagnostic tool. Absolutely love those. The tween budget version, okay, no, Macometer. Oh, here's the Macometer. Okay, so this is the one that shows the voltages. And yes, there we go. There's the little extra box that does it externally. So base unit with a mini DIN and the DIN adapter. Yep, so that's it. Allows you to check those. There's the blinky PCB sims. There's the reloaded. Oh, here it is. This is it. This is what we don't know what it is. Oh, that's right. Okay. Apple III. I need to write that on the back here for this little adapter here. Let's see. Apple II to Apple III. So I forgot that the Apple II and Apple III disk drives have a different pinout, which is frankly so typical Apple, because I mean, I don't think there's anything actually different about the disk drives, but they just changed the pinout, and all you need is an adapter like this little thing, and then you can use this Apple II, or yeah, there's the Apple II one, and that's the Apple III. Maybe they did add extra signals, I don't know. But either way, this adapter, well, that's great. And I have an Apple III upstairs, and luckily I have an external floppy drive, and it has an internal floppy drive, so I have the two that it supports. But, you know, who knows, the external drive could break, and I might not be able to fix it, and I can use an Apple II disk drive. Yes. So there we go. Thank you, Will, for this stuff, and this is what came from KMag Vintage, and like I said on their website, a bunch more really awesome stuff, so I totally recommend checking that out. And like I said, these blinky blink sims are amazing. I might just leave them, if these are actually 4 megs, I might just leave them in there permanently so I can enjoy those blinky lights at all times whenever I'm using that system. Because I mean, you know, I just love it. So anyways, okay, so I think that is it for the mail call episode. Everything I brought back from VCF I have shown now. So a huge thank you to everyone who gave me stuff to bring back with me. And I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to test all the things here on video. And that's just because, well, like I've been super busy with these videos on the main channel since I've been back, and this video is probably already an hour long as it is. It's hardly super mini, but we've looked at some really cool things. I'm going to try to make sure I put the descriptions and the links and stuff in the description, that is, for all this stuff, so you can check it out if anything here piqued your interest. And as I said, I think the thing that really blows my mind here is this software-defined card here, the PicoMEM. This is really cool. So I recommend checking out the Vogons thread, and maybe you can get involved with that project to help them out. And I guess that's going to be that. So like I said, thanks to everyone who gave me stuff. And if I got to meet you at VCF, I thank you for coming up and saying hello to me. And if you were there and you were too shy to say hi to me, please try to say hi to me next time. I don't bite, and like I think I'm a nice guy. So anyhow, yeah, that was an amazing trip. VCF was frankly amazing. And if you were there and you had a booth and I didn't get to see it, I do apologize. Next time, please come and grab me, shake me and be like, come check out my booth. And then I will gladly do it. But if you don't do that, then what happens is what happens. And I was like a squirrel, like a dog with squirrels, like squirrel, squirrel. I'm like, I don't know where to look. Anyhow, that's it. So thanks to my patrons. Names are shown up beside the screen. They get early access to videos like this one and everything else, plus behind the scenes good stuff. You can get become a patron. There's a link in the description below. And thumbs up if you like this video, and subscribe and all the usual YouTube stuff. Comment down below. And there we go. That's going to be that. Stay healthy, stay safe. I will see you next time. Bye.